Hello and welcome to Tabletop Odyssey for the absolutely electric final of the Imps Gaming Malifaux League. It has been a long journey to get here, and if you haven't seen the other videos from this league, please make sure to check them out first. This game sees two underdogs from the playoffs overcome the titans of the league to make it to the final stretch. With 3 masters to choose from each, my opponent has the choice of Kirai, Sandeep and Rasputina, and they chose to take Sandeep here. Meanwhile, I had taken Anya and Bass so far, so I could basically take anything else as my third, and so I took the one crew I've never actually lost with yet, Kirai. With any luck, that is a record I will keep. This matchup sees us take to the field on corner deployment for Raid the Vaults. Our scheme pool consisted of Ensnare, Deathbeds, Protected Territory, Let Them Bleed, and Espionage. My opponent and I both took Protected Territory and Espionage. My list for this matchup is Kirai 2, Envoy of the Court, with the Whisper upgrade, her Totem, Ikiryo, 2 Gwisin with Grave Spirit's Touch, the Lost Love, the Ferryman, a Seishin Pool Noodle, and Desai Bar's alternate, Binh Nguyen, with the Whisper upgrade. This gives me 7 stones to play with. With a lot of incorporeal, I can ignore any pyre markers they want to throw down, and hopefully get rid of conditions, the Lost Love, while maintaining a mobile force to reach all of the vaults easily. My opponent went for high damage and speed, but high cost here, and takes Sandeep 2, Font of Magic, and his totem Banasuva. On the academic side, he takes a Shastar Vidiya guard, and an elemental boxer with magical training, and the elementals of a fire golem, the 4 winds golem, a wind gamin, and an ice gamin with 5 stones spare. His aim is to splash a volcano of pyre markers down onto me and cover me in fire while using the academics to fuel more attacks for his elementals, namely his master. The field is set and the game begins with the diving wind gamin focusing to give the 4 winds golem some chi, triggering the Banasuva mantra to force the wind golem's demise, which moves the fire golem before the wind gamin takes a short walk. That's a chain reaction if I ever saw one. Kirai is going to go next, whispering some cards, before moving everyone up with swirling spirits. Banasuva discards to move Sandeep up before walking and focusing to trigger more mantras. Bing Bong is going to whisper up now, guiding Ikiryo and the Seishin upfield. The boxer tells the fire golem to walk before focusing up and moving too. The dabbing Gwisin, almost certainly a mistake, walks and focuses as they move upfield. Forgetting to drop a scheme here. The Shastar then focuses, using their mantra to push upfield and give chi to the golem, while making the gamin follow his path and walk up too. My pool noodle fails on the first try, but guides Kirai in the second to move her up with the rest of the crew, while the fire golem takes a walk and fails to fling a fire tornado. The Ferryman is then going to take a double walk to the far end as the 4 winds golem focuses near Banasuva to pick up and move the ice gamin before flying and leaping away. The swimming Gwisin walks up and focuses as the ice gamin takes a walk, focuses, and Ikiryo copies them. Sandeep then uses a moment of reflection to turn the ice gamin into the tailwind wind gamin. He then cheats to drop a pyre marker with etheric control twice, but I dodge them both before focusing. Lost Love then drops a scheme down on the line and walks. Turn 1 ends and I can feel the heat coming as I've taken over the center line. Turn 2, and Bing Bong starts off by guiding spirits twice, moving Kirai and the Gwisin forwards. The boxer discards to tell Sandeep to Aetheric Control, spilling flames onto Kirai. They then dash upfield in pursuit of a vault. My noodle moves upfield to keep my heal bubble intact, while the Shastar focuses to push upfield and walks to challenge the Ferryman. The Ferryman responds to this by walking up and failing to drop a mark of vengeance on the Shastar, but does manage to give him the black spot, with Lost in the Fog removing his focus. The diving wind Gamin then walks, leaps and focuses, while the swimming Gwisin runs up after healing Kirai with his regen. Banasuva goes next, discarding to tell the Four Winds Golem to fly, before using Lord of the Elements on Sandeep to make him move, for walking and focusing himself. The dabbing Gwisin goes next, rushing back to go scheme in my deployment for Espionage, before the Fire Golem drops a pair of fire tornadoes into the Gwisin, and Kirai, before eating scheme with Burn to a Crisp. Lost Love then teleports with By Your Side to dispel magic on Kirai, removing the burning before failing to heal up the Gwisin. Sandeep takes a moment to reflect, telling the Fire Golem to move it before dropping a triad of Aetheric Current Pyre markers down, killing the Pool Noodle and doing damage to the others. Kirai goes next, swirling spirits twice and walking through the gap in flames to push Ikiryo into position before giving the Fire Golem Adversary. The Four Winds Golem concentrates to place the boxer near the vault, flies up, leaps and wind blasts Ikiryo away. Ikiryo charges back into the Fire Golem, smacking them for 6 damage in a mighty hit, before the Tailwind Gamin flies up, leaps and schemes. We're both going to score here on vaults, so it's 1-1. Turn 2 over, and the volcano is certainly starting to burst, and Incorporeal and Vengeance don't work on shockwaves. Yikes. Firefighter Lost Love needs to be kept alive if we want to weather this storm. Turn 3 begins, and I seize to make Ikiryo barrel into the Fire Golem. They cheat the Red Joker, but I still manage to hit here, and I hit the Red Joker myself on damage to delete the Fire Golem, and then shrug off the burning as they perish. With my second action, I then charge the boxer, hitting them for 3 damage. Banasuva does not take kindly to this, discarding to make Sandeep Aetheric Current, and doing some damage to the Gwisin, before using Lord of the Elements to make Sandeep do it again. He then walks up and fire breathes into the Gwisin, but plant jokers. The dabbing Gwisin, bursting through the flames, charges Banasuva, but fails to hit or threaten him. Sandeep then tells Banasuva to attack the Gwisin. The ghost takes 1, and they take 2 from Vengeance. Nice. A moment of reflection here, then heals up the boxer and Banasuva before Sandeep commands the earth to open again and uses Aetheric Current to spill 3 more pyre markers down. Everything is on fire. Everything is fine. Kirai is then going to hit the alarm button and swells to move her and the Gwisin away from the flames before giving the boxer the thirst of vengeance before she sunders him to dust. The Four Winds Golem, up he goes, Ikiryo away from the vault and leaps to scheme as the Lost Love walks and fails to dispel the burning from Kirai. Oh dear. The Shastar then focuses to push 2 and charges the Ferryman, but fails to hit, as the swimming Gwisin then walks and charges into the guard, trailing Gore to eat their scheme, but unfortunately misses their attacks. The diving Wind Gamin then flies off and schemes, but fails to leap. The scheme, however, is in reach for the Ferryman to move without breaking engagement. so they're going to move and deny them protected territory before placing a mark of vengeance on them that fails to hit them. The Tailwind Gamin then leaps, flies to challenge the vault, focuses up as Bing Bong saunters up to the rest of the field. Turn 3 over, with us both taking a point on vaults once more. It's 2-2 as we venture into the 4th turn. My entire crew is slowly burning to death right now, apart from the Ferryman, who is in water, and Bing Bong, who stayed back. So I'm certainly feeling the heat. Luckily, I managed to put down the Fire Golem here, which is a big threat, and deny them from scoring protected territory. This turn may prove tough though if I can't turn the heat off. Kirai is going to start me off by branding Banasuva with Adversary, before focusing and sundering him twice, turning him to ash with a cheated red Joker. Great start to the turn, which limits the amount of etheric currents coming my way. The Shastar guard then focuses up to push before showing the Wind Gamin the way, and hitting the Ferryman for black. Unfortunate. The swimming Gwisin then walks and charges the guard. The red Joker stops him in his tracks, but he does manage to trail of gore to remove a scheme, and strikes again, hitting for 1 damage, unable to break through the armor. The diving Gamin then leaps away, walks and schemes for protected territory. Not much I can do about that, as my steadily burning dabbing Gwisin rushes towards their home vault. Sandeep fails his moment of reflection, so focuses and sends 3 more etheric currents down into Kirai, with only stones and the rest of my hand managing to save her from destruction. But burning at the end of the turn is sure to take her out, if it wasn't for lost love, by siding to her, scheming and removing her burns, before unfortunately succumbing to the flames at the end of the turn himself. A noble sacrifice. The Tailwind Gamin is then going to leap forward, drop a scheme down, and fly towards my deployment zone, as Ikiryo charges back into the 4 Winds Golem, doing 3 points and contesting the point. The Golem then manages to up we go Ikiryo away once more, stopping their gambit, leaping away as the Ferryman manages to give out Adversary and then misses against the Shastar. This turn saw me sacrifice on points for board state, as I hold all the vaults firmly now, taking a point there for myself, but my opponent, forced off the vaults, targeted the schemes instead, scoring both protected territory and espionage for 2. Kirai barely surviving the flames, and with the Gwisin not far off either, held at bay by their regeneration. I'm not confident as I trail going into turn 5 at 4 points to 3. I might be in a bit of trouble here. The final turn looms, and at this point the timer is giving me an actual panic attack, as there is only 7 minutes left on the clock for me. My opponent and I are both quite chatty, and I really hadn't noticed the timer creep up so far on us, but they had more to spare. So Sandeep is going to start by trying to worsen the problem for me, using From Heaven to Earth to target Kirai, which he dodges, before using an etheric current to put the flames back onto her, leaving her to certain death come game's end, as he uses a moment of reflection to move. The dabbing Gwisin is then going to drop a scheme inside my opponent's deployment zone, and focuses up, having held their vault, as the diving Gamin then leaps and schemes into my deployment zone. The Ferryman then puts the Mark of Vengeance onto the Shastar and smacks them down to 1 health remaining, but unfortunately he is going to hold on with some grit and determination, knowing his life can deny me a point as the 4 Wind Golem leaps and schemes for protected territory. Ikiryo, alone, drops a scheme and walks to the vault, keeping the scheme in range for protected territory, as Kirai is going to drop a scheme for protected territory before edging closer to the Shastar giving him adversary and
sundering him to dust.
Whew. Well, at least that one's a relief. With a final push to deny me on the vaults, the Tailwind Gamin is then going to rush up and leap to engage me in the centre. But luckily, with movements from the swimming Gwisin and Bing Bong, I'm able to move back and retake the point, and stay beside the schemes as Kirai burns to ash, like a torch. A funeral pile, you could say, signalling an end to the conflict. My opponent here is going to score protected territory. They are unable to claim a vault, and they are unluckily a scheme point short of espionage, as they take a soul point here, taking them to 5 total. Having maintained the vaults, I claim a point there, as well as a point from protected territory, thanks to the Gwisin and Ikiryo, and a point from espionage, thanks to the Gwisin in their deployment zone and Lost Love Sacrifice from before. With 3 points gained, I move from 3 to 6 total, leaving the game a narrow victory for Kirai, and for me, 6-5. This marks the end of the Malifaux League here, with me as its eventual playoff victor. Heart beating faster than ever before, with seconds left on the clock to spare. Lessons learned. My opponent controlled the flow of the game early with students of all, giving Sandeep a ludicrous amount of pyre markers to vomit out at me, showing me the reason that he was in the finals. Dealing with the heat was certainly a challenge that Lost Love rescued me from, even if I diverted the majority of my resources to keeping him alive. If it wasn't for Incorporeal ignoring the markers, I think my forces would have crumbled much sooner, and my opponent would have claimed victory instead. It took a lot of quick thinking against the clock to try and figure out the right strategy, but I trusted to the speed of swirling spirits to get me through. Ikiryo did some big work too, and Kirai's sundering certainly helped. The healing kept me alive throughout the game, and I'm glad I had lots of stones with me to spare. Kirai continues to be my lucky charm, and I hope others can see their strength too. Today wasn't just about the victory. It was a combination of my skills growing over time, a chance to make new friends, and a chance to use my skills with this channel too. This journey is coming to an end for now. I'll be taking a small interlude as I add more games to my channel, starting with Infinity as our new Infinity N5 campaign begins. I hope you'll stay and watch for more, as I have some new crews lined up for when I return. Your continued support throughout this is greatly appreciated and valued. I hope you enjoyed enough to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and to be honest, already more of you watch me than I ever really thought would. People forget just sometimes how many 100 people can be. It fills a whole room, and a big one at that. So no matter how big or small the channel has been, I'm glad to see it growing, and I'm glad to share my story with you. For now, this has been Tabletop Odyssey, by your side into 2025.